career was destroyed after a drug relapse, and her lifetime ban was confirmed. Hi there, everybody! Greetings from another thrilling video. I'm Jennifer from 90 Day Insider, and I'm here to provide you the most recent news, drama, and exclusive behind-the-scenes looks. Let's get started. Scandals are nothing new in the realm of reality TV. Viewers have witnessed it all, from explosive breakups to legal issues. However, fans worldwide are in complete shock over what transpired with Amy Slaton, one of the breakout stars of TLC's 1000lb Sisters. What started out as a sincere quest for happiness, family hardships, and weight loss has now devolved into a nightmare of addiction, relapse, and betrayal. TLC has now shockingly decided to permanently sever connections with Amy Slaton, banning her from the network that once made her famous for life following months of behind-the-scenes turmoil. Fans have been shocked by the news. Audiences followed Amy's highs and lows for years, including her emotional conflicts with her sister Tammy, her successful parenting moments, and her candid admissions of her health and self-esteem issues. Amy was more than simply a reality TV personality. She was genuine, honest, and personable. She let millions of strangers see her most personal challenges. She smiled through the anguish, and she grieved on TV. She became a fan favorite because of her candor. However, that same transparency has now exposed a side of Amy that viewers never anticipated. A woman who is losing her mind, becoming addicted to drugs, and eventually being shunned by the network that originally supported her tale. Several insiders claim that Amy's problems started long before the cameras stopped rolling. She was burdened by the strain of being a reality TV celebrity, the difficulty of raising two young sons practically as a single parent, and the emotional scars from a traumatic background. She allegedly started using drugs as a coping mechanism over time. It became impossible to conceal what began as minor, private conflicts that took place behind closed doors. Her relapse not only shocked her family, but also the whole TLC production crew, who apparently did everything they could to support Amy before deciding to permanently cut her off. The choice was made quickly. TLC officials had an emergency conference following the last documented relapse during filming. They considered the dangers, criticism from the public, and liabilities of continuing to feature Amy. Even though the network has previously supported problematic celebrities, Amy's relapse and her increasing instability on site made it impossible to overlook. For the first time in the history of the program, TLC imposed the most severe penalty imaginable. Amy Slaton was barred from all TLC programs, both current and future. There was more to this than a suspension. This was a lifetime ban, not a brief reprieve to get help. Amy would not be permitted to return in any way, according to an internal memo from TLC. It seemed to mark the end of an era for her longtime admirers. It meant that everything Amy had worked so hard to build, her reputation, her money, her relationship with her followers, and even her identity as a reality TV star, was going to fall apart. The consequences were immediate. Disbelief exploded on social media. While some fans argued that TLC had no choice, others stood up for Amy, claiming that the network had abandoned her when she was at her lowest. As rumors of never-before-seen videos surfaced online, revealing Amy intense confrontations with producers and erupting in moments of extreme vulnerability, the gulf widened. Despite being unverified, these videos have only intensified the debate. Was TLC using Amy's demise to get viewers, or was it defending its brand? The tension was significantly higher behind the cameras. Family members, especially Tammy Slaton, who had been battling her own issues for years, were left to pick up the pieces. Tammy's path now runs the risk of being overshadowed by her sister's collapse. Some claim that Tammy's success narrative might sustain the franchise, while others express concern that the show cannot continue without Amy. However, for Amy, the issue is now one of survival rather than television ratings. With her personal issues getting worse and TLC's lack of support, many people worry that Amy is about to embark on an even more difficult chapter in her life. The possibility of Amy losing everything, including her family, is no longer unimaginable, and rumors of custody disputes for her children have already started to circulate. There is more to this scandal than just reality TV drama. It is the tragic demise of a lady who once personified fortitude, hope, and salvation. Her name is now associated with rejection, shame, and relapse. Although TLC has let her go, Amy Slaton's journey is far from over. Amy Slaton was only a Kentucky girl attempting to make people laugh on YouTube long before the term relapse was ever associated with her name. Years before 1000 LB Sisters was broadcast, she and her sister Tammy started posting lighthearted, informal films. Their unvarnished, unadulterated substance attracted notice right away. Viewers were drawn to their genuineness, whether they were making jokes, flaunting their cosmetics, or simply discussing their everyday lives. They were not famous people. They were just regular ladies with remarkable bodies. And it was startling and energizing that they were willing to talk about their difficulties. The TLC producers were drawn to that unvarnished honesty. The network was looking for new ideas for reality TV at the time. The channel's programming has traditionally featured weight loss adventures, with programs like My 600 LB Life attracting sizable viewership. However, Amy and Tammy were personalities, as well as two sisters who battled obesity. They were relatable, charming, and shared a tragic and humorous bond. They were television gold, to put it briefly. Nobody could have foreseen how rapidly 1000 LB Sisters would become a cultural phenomenon when it debuted in 2020. Amy was particularly noticeable. Amy was shown as the more optimistic sister, the one who wished to make changes in her life for the sake of the family she hoped to start, whereas Tammy was frequently depicted as obstinate and unyielding. With tears in their eyes, viewers witnessed Amy's weight loss surgery, demonstrating to both the public and herself that she was capable of taking charge of her health. The emotional impact of her adventure was profound. Amy has been ridiculed online, dismissed as a joke by many, and judged by strangers for years due to her size. Millions, however, witnessed her humanity on TLC. She was now a woman battling for a second chance at life, not simply the funny big girl on YouTube. Fans grew more supportive of her with each weight loss, medical visit, and on-camera emotional outburst. She became the focal point of the performance. Then Amy's greatest dream, becoming a mother, came true. She gave birth to her first son and then a second after losing weight. As the final prize for her perseverance and hard labor, the moment was shown on 1000 LB Sisters. Amy was now thriving rather than merely getting by. As she joyfully accepted her new role as a mother, fans joined in the celebration and sent her encouraging and loving words. Amy seemed to have it all for a while. She had a devoted husband, 2 handsome boys, a devoted fan base, and a deal with TLC that brought her both national recognition and financial security. She participated in fan conventions, interacted with her fans on social media, and reveled in her success. Amy was finally living the life she had always dreamed of after years of hardship. However, celebrity also brought pressure. All of a sudden, Amy's choices were closely examined. Millions of people saw every fight with Tammy, every chaotic moment in her house, and every angry cry. Some fans expressed empathy, while others voiced criticism. Social media turned into a double-edged sword, providing Amy with a means of communicating with her fans, while simultaneously allowing vicious trolls and unrelenting criticism to flourish. Cracks were showing through the success and the smiles. TLC portrayed her as a success story, but in private, Amy felt overpowered. It was tough to raise 2 young children while filming a reality show. Rumors of friction at home were more prevalent as her marriage started to deteriorate. The same network that made her famous also insisted on drama. And as Amy's personal life fell apart, each season seemed to thrust her into the spotlight even more. Insiders claim that Amy's old demons started to reappear around this period. She felt the weight of the demands of celebrity, the obligations of parenthood, and the unceasing criticism. Despite her accomplishments, she continued to battle grief from her background and feelings of inadequacy. She supposedly adopted risky behaviors as a coping mechanism. These difficulties were initially kept under wraps, but they gradually started to influence her on-screen demeanor. Supporters observed that Amy was less like the upbeat, driven lady they had previously cheered for and more reclusive and agitated. Many people now recognize the warning indicators in retrospect. However, nobody could have predicted at the time that the woman who had put in so much effort to start over would experience such a terrible relapse. Amy Slaton had a quick ascent to fame. In a few years, she went from being a little-known YouTuber to becoming one of the biggest reality stars on TLC. However, as the phrase goes, a star can burn out more quickly the brighter it burns. Furthermore, the very celebrity that had brought Amy joy would soon turn into a burden. Amy Slaton frequently played the lighter, more upbeat sister on film, keeping the family together while Tammy struggled with life-threatening medical issues. Off-screen, however, Amy's personal life was starting to fall apart in ways that few people fully comprehended. In actuality, she paid a heavy price for her ascent to popularity and the associated duties, which drove her to the verge of collapse and finally prepared the ground for her tragic relapse. It felt like a dream come true when Amy initially presented her spouse to her followers. After all, viewers had witnessed her go through surgery, lose weight, and fulfill her ambition of becoming a mother. Amy, her husband, and their infant son were shown as a happy family, which was the ideal way to wrap up her redemption story. TLC promoted Amy's story as evidence that change was achievable, mainly relying on this storyline. However, the truth was much more nuanced behind closed doors. The marriage soon started to exhibit signs of weakness. The couple's friends have talked about the ongoing conflict and strain at home, which is mostly caused by the strain of parenting while being watched closely on reality TV. According to reports, Amy herself felt overburdened by the demands of being a full-time mother and a public figure, while her husband apparently found it difficult to manage the attention that came with the show. Even if the joy of motherhood was genuine, it was also accompanied by fatigue, restless nights, and the overwhelming burden of raising two young children virtually by yourself. The strain was seen by fans. Amy posted glimpses of her messy home on social media, which drew criticism from some followers and sympathy from others. Online, outsiders dissected every sloppy aspect, including her marriage, parenting, and even the condition of her house. What was intended to be a forum for communication frequently turned into a haven for criticism and hate. Amy's mental health started to suffer as a result of the incessant barrage of hate speech on the internet. TLC itself added to the strain. Amy frequently felt constrained by the obligations of filming, even if the network profited from the drama and mayhem of the Slaton sisters' lives. Amy's personal hardships became storylines because the producers sought drama. The cameras were there when her marriage broke down. The cameras were filming as she broke down in tears of weariness. Amy's sense of privacy deteriorated with each season, as what ought to have been private conflicts turned into public spectacles. Insiders claim that Amy started using risky coping strategies at this time. The strains of parenting, celebrity, and a failing marriage revived old traumas, even if her weight reduction journey had demonstrated her power and will. She had previously battled addiction, but it returned to haunt her. It was subtle at first, something she could conceal. However, the flaws were more difficult to hide over time. Amy's behavior changed according to family members. She became less goal-focused, more introverted, and more irritated. Producers found it more and more difficult to portray the upbeat Amy that fans recalled throughout filming. On-set disputes became more intense, and crew members started to wonder if she could even continue shooting. The contrast with Tammy's travels only served to heighten the tragedy of the situation. Tammy had started to change her life after years of being perceived as the more problematic sibling. She was losing weight and reaching goals that many believed were unachievable. Amy was falling apart while Tammy was flourishing for the first time. It was hard to witness the turnaround, which brought to light how brittle Amy's success really was. Amy made an effort to maintain appearances despite her growing difficulties. She put on a brave front for fans, shared adorable moments with her kids, and grinned for social media posts. Beneath the grins, however, was a lady who felt her control was slipping. And as the strain increased, it was inevitable that her personal conflicts would eventually come to light. For those closest to her, the recurrence was devastating, but not totally unexpected. It signaled the moment when TLC would have to choose between protecting its brand and its star, and when Amy's underlying troubles could no longer be disregarded. Rumors concerning Amy Slaton's personal conflicts persisted for months. Fans observed minor changes, such as a darker mood, less vitality, and a less joyous presence than before. Many initially attributed it to tiredness from filming a hard reality program and raising two babies. However, something much more serious was taking place behind the scenes. Amy was relapsing, and the largest scandal in the history of the 1000lb sisters would soon burst from her downward spiral. Production sources claim that the relapse occurred gradually rather than all at once. It started out subtly and in ways that were simple to ignore. Producers were alarmed by missed appointments, postponed shoots, and inexplicable mood swings, but Amy frequently dismissed them. She would arrive late for filming, clearly upset, and even cry for reasons the team didn't understand. The network was patient at initially. Executives believed Amy was simply going through a difficult time because TLC had made significant investments in her and positioned her as the show's heart and success story. They provided her with assistance, allegedly setting up wellness breaks and therapy to help her stay on course. However, things worsened as the weeks stretched into months. Amy and the production team have reportedly had heated arguments, according to leaked behind-the-scenes accounts. During filming, Amy allegedly yelled at a producer, accusing the crew of taking advantage of her suffering as she battled to keep her life together. Another rumor said that Amy's inability to control herself on site forced several pauses in the filming process. It was almost impossible to maintain the show's smooth operation because of these outbursts and her increasingly unpredictable behavior. According to insiders, the breaking point occurred while a much-anticipated family scene was being filmed. In what was intended to be a humorous, upbeat moment for the event, Amy was scheduled to make an appearance alongside her kids. Rather, the shoot ended in disarray. Producers apparently had to rush to save the tape as Amy stormed off set in tears. Soon later, there were rumors that Amy had turned to drugs again. The internal chatter was unavoidable, even though TLC never issued an official public statement at the time. Amy's loved ones were devastated by her recurrence, and network officials were also alarmed. TLC was in a terrible situation with 2 small children under her supervision and cameras rolling all the time. What if her difficulties were revealed live? What if it was claimed that the network allowed her to fail in order to boost ratings? TLC couldn't take the risk in a field already renowned for taking advantage of weak stars. They summoned an emergency meeting. To determine Amy's future, executives, producers, and legal counsel convened. Some maintained that the liability was too high, while others contended that she merited another shot. The decision was severe, but unchangeable. Amy Slaton would no longer appear on 1000 LB Sisters and would be barred from any TLC shows going forward. Although the network believed it had no other option, insiders insist the decision was not made hastily. There was instant repercussions inside the family. According to reports, Tammy was devastated since she had finally started to thrive in her own recovery. Amy's emotional and professional breakdown left other family members stunned and unclear of how to help her. The news was upsetting for Amy herself. Not only was TLC her employer, but it was also her lifeblood. She had gained notoriety, financial security, and a forum to tell her tale thanks to the network. Now it had all been torn away with a single choice. The prohibition was particularly harsh because it was permanent. Her contract was not suspended by TLC. They did not provide a short-term respite for rehabilitation. They banned him for life. It was the same as exile for Amy. Her reality TV career ended overnight, her income was drastically reduced, and rumors of relapse and addiction damaged her reputation. Meanwhile, fans were shocked. As word of the ban spread, social media exploded. Hashtags went viral, with some fans calling for Amy to be reinstated by TLC and blaming the network of ignoring her when she most needed support. However, several contended that TLC had made the correct decision in declaring Amy unable to appear on television. As more information regarding her behind-the-scenes actions surfaced, the gap widened. The future of the 1000 LB Sisters was at the center of the scandal, not just Amy. Would the show be able to go on without her? Would Tammy's plot be compelling enough to keep the series going? Or would the incident cause the Slaton brand to crumble? The answers were ambiguous for TLC. However, Amy knew that her time on the network was gone and that she would never be able to return. She had lost her job, her reputation, and perhaps even her family due to the relapse. And after everything was over, there was still a nagging doubt. Would Amy ever be able to start over without TLC? Or was this really the end of the road? 1000 LB Sisters fans are reeling with absolute shock after explosive reports surfaced that Amy Slaton's husband, Brian Lovern, has been arrested once again, this time on serious drug charges. For Amy, a woman who has spent years fighting to find stability, happiness, and a safe environment for her children, this revelation feels like another devastating blow that threatens to destroy the fragile progress she has worked so hard to build. What makes the situation even more horrifying is not just the fact that Brian is behind bars, but the disturbing claims being revealed from those close to the family. Brian allegedly told Amy that he doesn't want to take responsibility for her children, and shockingly suggested that she should just put her kids in an orphanage. This cruel and heartless statement has left fans outraged, with many rushing online to express disbelief, fury, and deep concern for Amy's well-being, and for the future of her two young children, who never asked to be caught in the middle of such chaos. We must examine Amy's journey thus far in order to fully comprehend how devastating this situation is for her. Since the first episode of 1000 LB Sisters, Amy's story has been about more than just losing weight. It has been about survival, resiliency, and her desire to build a better life for herself and her kids. While attempting to maintain her role as a protective and loving mother, fans have watched her battle with health issues, struggle with her self-image, and endure heartbreaking relationship issues. After her split from Michael Halterman, Amy had to raise her children alone, which she acknowledged was difficult but worth every sacrifice. Many fans hoped that her relationship with Brian Lavorne would be the turning point, where Amy would finally find love, stability, and a partner who would support her on her journey. But those hopes have been shattered in the most devastating way possible. In addition to upsetting Amy's family, Brian's arrest on drug charges sparked serious concerns about what was actually going on in their marriage. According to sources, this is not the first time Brian has run afoul of the law, but the charges are much more serious this time, and the consequences could be disastrous for Amy and her kids. The idea that Amy's husband was allegedly involved in illegal activity while she was at home, trying to keep her family together, paints a dark picture of betrayal, secrecy, and chaos lurking just beneath the surface of their lives. And his shocking statements that he didn't want Amy's children have left fans in disbelief. The public's reaction has been quick and intense, with followers expressing their support for Amy and their anger at Brian in social media comment sections. Many are accusing Brian of being reckless, self-centered, and undeserving of Amy's love or trust. The details surrounding Brian Lavorne's arrest have only contributed to the mounting chaos surrounding Amy Slaton's life. According to emerging reports, Brian was arrested on serious drug-related charges following what authorities are describing as a routine stop that swiftly escalated into a criminal investigation. When police pulled Brian over, they allegedly found suspicious substances in his possession, along with items that suggested possible intent to distribute. Although the full extent of the charges has not yet been officially confirmed, the rumors circulating throughout Kentucky paint a damning picture, one that could land Brian in prison for years if found guilty. Amy finds this to be more than just a scandal. It is a complete breakdown of the fragile stability she was clinging to, and it has made her home a nightmare. Amy was caught off guard by the arrest, according to insiders, and she had no idea that Brian was allegedly involved in drug use at this level. The betrayal has left Amy shaken and questioning every decision she has made. Amy is currently experiencing the horror of trying to protect two young children and thinking she has finally found someone who could be a partner and protector, only to learn that the person she trusted may have been living two lives. Friends close to the family say Amy is devastated and embarrassed, terrified not only of what this means for her children's future, but also of how it will be shown on national television once TLC cameras record the fallout. The situation is made worse by Brian's shocking response, which has shocked everyone around them. Insiders claim that when Amy confronted him about the children and asked how they were supposed to move forward as a family, Brian snapped back that he didn't want her kids and that she should just put them in an orphanage. These words cut deeper than any knife, leaving Amy in tears and fans furious beyond belief. Social media has erupted in outrage, with many calling Brian's statement one of the cruelest things ever spoken about on the periphery. Parents everywhere are expressing disgust, saying that children should never be discussed in such a dehumanizing manner, and fans are urging Amy to cut ties immediately before more harm is done. In addition to the emotional pain, Amy is experiencing more anxiety and uncertainty due to the legal ramifications of Brian's arrest. Depending on the outcome of his case, Brian may face severe fines, probation, or even jail time. Amy fears that the justice system may permanently remove the man she believed she could rely on from her life. While some fans have noted that this could be a blessing in disguise, that Brian's removal could provide Amy with the fresh start she sorely needs to concentrate on herself and her kids. Others are concerned that the emotional scars from this betrayal will persist, making it more difficult for Amy to trust or regain the confidence she has lost. In the meantime, TLC is keeping a close eye on things. The producers of 1000 LB Sisters are aware that scandal drives viewership, and Brian's arrest may turn into one of the most dramatic plot lines the show has ever seen. There is conjecture that TLC cameras may record Amy's unfiltered emotional response to the news, transforming her heartbreak into primetime drama for millions of viewers. While some fans are thrilled about the drama and want to see how Amy handles this hardship, others are furious, accusing the network of taking advantage of Amy's suffering for financial gain. The argument is becoming more and more heated. Should TLC keep filming Amy during this crisis, or should they give her time to recover without the added pressure of performing for the cameras? Despite the outrage directed at Brian, a large portion of the fanbase has thrown their support behind Amy, showering her social media with messages of love and encouragement, telling her that she is strong, worthy, and that her children need her now more than ever. Many of them are telling her not to hold herself responsible for Brian's mistakes, urging her to see his true nature and get rid of him permanently. Some are even warning Amy that staying with Brian could put her children in danger, both physically and emotionally, and that she must make the difficult decision to protect them above all else. But here's the harsh truth. Leaving someone you love is never as easy as people think. Amy is struggling with the heartbreak, the fear and the shame of another failed relationship. And after years of feeling rejected, judged, and abandoned, the idea of being alone again is terrifying. When you combine that with the crushing weight of raising 2 children alone, juggling the demands of celebrity, and continuously battling to stay on her health journey, you can see why Amy feels stuck. Fans are demanding that Amy protect the children from Brian at all costs, and many are praying that she can surround them with love, stability, and positivity despite the storm raging around them. And then there are the children who are ultimately the most vulnerable in this whole scandal. These innocent little boys have no control over the chaos around them, but their futures hang in the balance of every decision Amy makes. To hear that their stepfather allegedly suggested placing them in an orphanage is not only cruel, but also traumatizing. The arrest, the drugs, the betrayal, the cruel words. All of it adds up to a nightmare that no one should have to go through. However, as fans are aware, Amy has a history of rising from the ashes. Each time life knocks her down, she somehow finds the strength to come back up. Now, with the world watching, she must muster all of her courage to do it again. Not just for herself, but for her children as well. This is not just a scandal, it's a test of survival. One thing is certain, this is not just another reality TV drama. This is real life, raw and unfiltered, and it has left fans more invested in Amy's journey than ever before. The big question now is, will Amy finally cut Brian off and close this toxic chapter of her life forever? Or will the pull of love, fear, and desperation drag her deeper into the chaos? Will TLC use this scandal to boost ratings? Or will they protect Amy's dignity and allow her to heal in private? And most importantly, will Amy's children come out of this ordeal with the stability and love they deserve? Or will they bear the scars of this betrayal for years to come? With Brian Lavorne behind bars on drug-related charges, and his cruel remarks about Amy's children still reverberating like a nightmare, Amy Slaton finds herself at an emotional breaking point as the shocking fallout from his arrest continues to unfold. Fans of 1000 LB Sisters are watching with heavy hearts as Amy faces one of the darkest chapters of her life, a chapter filled with betrayal, humiliation, and gut-wrenching decisions that could change everything. Amy has spent years trying to claw her way out of pain and dysfunction, and this latest scandal feels like a tidal wave, threatening to sweep away all of her progress. The public's reaction has been explosive and unrelenting, with social media exploding with angry posts, memes, and videos denouncing Brian and demanding justice. Thousands of comments have been posted on Facebook, calling him a monster, a coward, and an unsuitable partner, with one fan asking, "How could anyone say something so cruel about innocent children?" Another added, "Amy has fought too hard to give her kids a loving home. To tell her they belong in an orphanage is pure evil." The outrage is evident, and it has made Brian one of the most despised characters ever connected to the 1000 LB Sisters universe. However, the backlash isn't just about Brian. It's also about Amy's future. Supporters are pleading with her to leave, to never turn around, and to concentrate only on her kids. But as anyone who has followed Amy's journey knows, things are never that easy. Amy has a tender heart that has been beaten and bruised by years of disappointment. She longs for love, companionship, and the hope of a stable family, and occasionally that longing makes it difficult for her to let go of toxic relationships. This is the internal conflict Amy is facing, the desperate need for love versus the indisputable fact that Brian has betrayed her in the worst way possible. So, the weight of being a public figure makes everything harder, as every mistake, heartbreak, and misstep is magnified by the spotlight of fame. While other women might be able to heal quietly, Amy is forced to process her pain in front of millions. According to insiders close to the production, Amy has been crying for hours behind the scenes, wondering how her life got so out of control. She has pleaded with TLC for privacy, but the network sees drama as ratings gold and is already planning how to spin Brian's arrest into the show's next big plot point. In any case, it's evident that the line between reality and exploitation has never been thinner. This raises uncomfortable questions about the ethics of reality television. Is it fair to expose Amy's trauma for entertainment purposes? Should the cameras continue to roll while she crumbles under the weight of betrayal? Some fans are disgusted at the idea, claiming that TLC is taking advantage of Amy's pain in the same way that they did during Tammy's darkest moments. Others counter that Amy voluntarily chose this life, and that the show's appeal lies in the unvarnished truth, even when it's ugly. Amy's family has also been drawn into the controversy. Tammy Slaton, who has been going through her own difficult recovery, is reportedly upset with Brian for hurting her sister. According to reports, family members are rallying around Amy, offering emotional support and urging her to prioritize her children. One insider allegedly stated, "Amy deserves better. She needs to stop wasting her time on men who drag her down and start focusing on building a safe, stable home for her children." Fans concur, inundating Amy's posts with supportive messages such as, "You don't need a man to validate you, Amy. You are strong enough on your own." Even though Amy's children are too young to fully comprehend what is happening, they are extremely sensitive to the emotions of the adults around them. So, if Amy is falling apart, her boys will feel that tension. If Brian's words ever reach them, the damage could be irreversible. The idea that a father figure once suggested they be placed in an orphanage is horrifying, which is why so many fans are demanding Amy cut him out of their lives forever. Whatever Amy may still love Brian, the children's safety and emotional health must come first. While fans are divided, some think Amy is too soft-hearted and may try to reconcile once Brian is free, while others think this scandal is so big, so public, and so painful that there is no turning back. Regardless, one thing is certain. Amy is at a crossroads, and the choice she makes now will define not only her future, but the future of her children. Meanwhile, speculation is growing about what Amy's next move will be. Will she file for divorce or legal separation? Will she seek full custody protections to keep Brian away from her children, or will she try to forgive him in the hopes that love can overcome even the darkest betrayals? Debates concerning Amy's self-worth have also been rekindled by the scandal. For years, fans have urged her to value herself, to stop settling for men who treat her badly, and to embrace the strong, independent woman she is growing into. Many see this as a make-or-break moment for Amy. If she can leave Brian permanently, it could be the start of a new, stronger chapter in her life. If she stays, fans fear it could ruin everything she has worked for, including her career, her health, and even her role as a mother. Amy has been largely silent in public throughout it all, posting only ambiguous statements about staying strong and protecting her kids. Fans have been analyzing every word, picture, and video for hints about Amy's mental state, with some seeing strength in her silence and thinking she is quietly getting ready to leave Brian behind, while others worry it is a sign that she is too overwhelmed to act, paralyzed by heartbreak and fear. Whatever the truth, the world is watching, and the pressure on Amy is increasing daily. At its core, the tragedy is painfully obvious. Amy Slaton, a woman who only wanted love and stability, is now dealing with the biggest scandal of her life. The harsh remarks about her children, the drug charges, and Brian Lovern's arrest are all wounds that will take time to heal. But if fans know one thing about Amy, It's that she has an unbreakable spirit. She has overcome poverty, ridicule, broken relationships, and health crises, and she has repeatedly risen from despair. Now, as she stands on the precipice, fans are hoping that she will find the strength to climb again. The questions tearing through the fan base are unknown until Amy herself speaks. But one thing is certain, this scandal has changed everything. Amy Slaton's life will never be the same, and neither will the way fans view her story. Will Amy finally break free from the toxic cycle that has haunted her for years, or will she slip deeper into the darkness with Brian dragging her down? Will TLC handle her pain with sensitivity, or will they turn it into a circus for ratings? Will Amy's children grow up in a safe, loving home, or will the scars of this scandal follow them forever? The fallout from Brian Lavorne's shocking arrest is spreading like wildfire, not only through Amy Slaton's personal life, but also throughout the media landscape at large. Headlines are showcasing Brian's name alongside phrases like drug charges, arrested again, and family betrayal, transforming the scandal into a full-fledged circus. For Amy, this is an unavoidable nightmare. Every time she turns on the television or opens her phone, she is forced to face the fact that the man she trusted has turned into a public villain, and she is left to pick up the pieces. Fans are urging Amy to take proactive legal steps, file for protective orders, establish clear custody boundaries, and ensure that Brian is permanently cut out of her children's lives. The very idea that her children could be dragged into a courtroom or subjected to instability because of Brian's reckless behavior has left Amy shaken to her core. Although Brian is not the biological father of Amy's children, the chaos of his arrest and the cruelty of his words about placing them in an orphanage are raising alarms about the boys' safety and well-being. According to insiders close to the family, Amy is terrified that this scandal could somehow be twisted against her in court, whether by Brian's legal team, her ex-husband Michael Halterman, or even outside agencies concerned about the children's environment. Meanwhile, public scrutiny is intensifying, with media outlets analyzing every aspect of the story, including Amy's past failed relationships, Brian's criminal record, and even speculation about how Tammy and the rest of the Slaton family are responding behind closed doors. While talk shows and gossip blogs portray Amy as a victim, others harshly criticize her for choosing the wrong men and ignoring red flags. This harsh criticism has only made matters worse for Amy, who is now grieving her broken relationship and defending herself against strangers who feel they have the right to judge every move she makes. And then there's TLC. The network loves drama, and Brian's arrest has given producers what they see as a ratings jackpot. Already, there are rumors that the scandal will be a major plot point in the upcoming season of 1000 LB Sisters. According to leaked production notes, cameras have been following Amy closely since the news broke, documenting her raw emotions, her conversations with family members, and her desperate attempts to protect her children. Fans are divided, with some angry and accusing TLC of taking advantage of Amy's suffering and transforming her real-life trauma into cheap entertainment. This isn't a storyline, it's her life falling apart, one fan tweeted, urging the network to give Amy privacy and space. However, TLC executives are aware that scandal sells, so they are unlikely to pass up the opportunity to increase viewership with such a dramatic plot twist. The constant spotlight makes it even more difficult for Amy to grieve, process, and rebuild in peace. Every time she tries to move forward, the world is watching, analyzing, and speculating about her every move. Amy is struggle. "1000 LB Sisters fans are reeling with absolute shock after explosive reports surfaced that Amy Slaton's husband, Brian Laverne, has been arrested once again, this time on serious drug charges. For Amy, a woman who has spent years fighting to find stability, happiness, and a safe environment for her children, this revelation feels like another devastating blow that threatens to destroy the fragile progress she has worked so hard to build. What makes the situation even more horrifying is not just the fact that Brian is behind bars, but the disturbing claims being revealed from those close to the family. Brian allegedly told Amy that he doesn't want to take responsibility for her children, and shockingly suggested that she should just put her kids in an orphanage. This cruel and heartless statement has left fans outraged, with many rushing online to express disbelief, fury, and deep concern for Amy's well-being, and for the future of her two young children, who never asked to be caught in the middle of such chaos. We must examine Amy's journey thus far in order to fully comprehend how devastating this situation is for her. Since the first episode of 1000 LB Sisters, Amy's story has been about more than just losing weight. It has been about survival, resiliency, and